What's up, everyone? Coach Tony here. We are here. We have a very, very exciting call for you guys here today. So today we actually have almost like a meet and greet kind of format for two purposes. One, I love to kind of showcase the amazing team that we have. Two of our top coaches inside our program, two of our most requested, two coaches that lost to us like, oh my God, can I talk to them? Can talk to them as well. And throughout this call, you'll kind of see why. And number two, these two coaches of ours, they both got into an incredible school that you guys may have heard of, MIT. So during this session, we're gonna just kind of ask them questions and kind of pick their brains about how they got into MIT, right? It's one of those very, very uber competitive schools to get into. Everyone talks about it. And now we have not just one student, but two folks who have gone through their journey, and they're here to kind of share their story with you. And so you guys can pick and learn from them, right? So without, again, I'm just the humble moderator here for today. So I'm gonna go ahead and introduce. So first we're gonna introduce Coach Sarah. If you want to do a quick little intro for yourself first.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a mechanical engineer. I graduated high school in 2018, and I went into MIT for mechanical engineering and graduated in 2022 with my degree in mechanical engineering. And throughout there, I did a couple internships with like NASA, JPL, Ford, and now I'm a PhD student at Texas A&M. We'll see when that graduation happens, but that's kind of like my whole like educational journey so far. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. And then the other co-guest we have today, Coach Michelle. You do a quick little intro as well too.
Yeah, so I'm Michelle. I'm also a mechanical engineering major, but one of the things MIT has is you can like concentrate in a specific part of mechanical engineering, and I'm thinking of doing controls and robotics. And I graduated high school in 2023, and so I'm still an undergrad here. I'm a sophomore now, and yeah, that's really it for me.
Awesome, fantastic. Yeah, so again, almost very recent grads, our current student, recent grads as well too. I think because it's so recent, they are able to kind of share almost like real lifetime kind of how the experiences are. Again, when people ask me, how was my high school? I'm like, dude, it's been oodles, long, long time ago when I went to high school. But so you can see things change, right? But with two, Coach Michelle and Coach Sarah, they kind of just came from it recently as well as a few years apart. So they're kind of giving you most live stuff so they can relate to a lot of the students here. So let's kind of start back. So the format of this call, we'll go ahead and just talk about high school life. So I'm gonna have you guys both swing back a few years mentally in your head, go back to high school. Because one of the big things I've always learned doing this now for a long time is success leaves clues, right? So a lot of our students are aiming to go to schools like MIT or maybe other similar schools, the Caltechs and the other top schools in the nation. And then so again, one thing that I always tell students is that in life, in school, they tell you never to copy. For me, I'm telling you to succeed in life, you want to copy who's doing it well so you can learn from them to kind of fast pace your life a lot as well too. So we'll kind of start with academics first. Love kind of learn about your academic journeys and see how that looked like. Then we'll love to kind of talk about a little bit activities. So activities with clubs, sports, if you guys did sports as well too, learn how that was for both of you. And then talk about your applications. That's that process. At the time of this recording, it is application season for our students. So love to kind of have you guys bring back a few years and rethink of that moment and share some thoughts there as well too. So let's go ahead and start first with the academics. We'll go ahead and start with Sarah. Like, how was your academics? Kind of what type of classes did you take? Kind of why you took the classes that you did as well, and like, if you want to share grades too.
Yeah, so I think my freshman and sophomore year, I kind of stuck with like kind of the typical like what other students were doing in my grade. So like I just took your like typical like first year classes, and like the only AP class I took sophomore year was like AP Euro. But then starting junior year, I really tried focusing on taking a lot of AP classes. So I took like AP Physics, AP Calc, like both AP Physics, both AP Calcs, AP Bio, AP Ling, AP Lit. I think I took around 13 AP classes throughout my high school time. And I think, yeah, and I think it kind of depends from school to school. So my school didn't super encourage like taking classes, like college classes, but I know other people, other students like at MIT that are my friends. Like their school was more open to letting them take college classes, but our school like kind of wanted us to stay internal. So I mostly tried focusing on taking mostly STEM classes, obviously. I knew pretty much like freshman year, like I was not a huge humanities like history person. So I knew I wanted to focus on taking STEM classes. So I took like all the AP sciences I could, all the AP calculuses that I could, and going as far as I can with that. And I think like, yeah, generally the tests, like I think I did pretty decently. I think I like ranked fourth in my school in terms of classes, in terms of like grades. And I don't think they ranked my APs, but yeah, like for most of my AP, especially STEM ones, like math and physics and stuff, I think I got like all fives. And the humanities one, I scored little like, you know, fours, but yeah, I think I put a lot of my energy into the STEM ones. Yeah, I'm not sure if there were any other
No,
things.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And how about you, Coach Michelle?
Yeah, I took a very similar route. So again, your typical classes. I took like one AP Comp Sci freshman year, and then I think another like an AP history course my sophomore year, and I think another one that I can't really remember. But yeah, I also took like the physics, AP Physics 1 and 2, because they stopped offering Physics C at my school, but I definitely recommend taking Physics C over Physics 2. Like the Calc, AB, BC, Comp Sci, like both of the Comp Scis, and then like the Lang and Lit and whatever. So it was like pretty typical too. Um, also didn't take many college classes just because the school didn't really provide good access to that, and I didn't really think to like explore out of that. And I think I ranked like 10 in my school, which is like, yeah, and also like did pretty well on my APs and did pretty well on my classes too. But I wouldn't say that I wasn't like valedictorian or anything crazy like that.
Yeah,
Awesome,
I
cool.
think you took engineering classes, right, Michelle?
Oh yeah, I was in
Yeah.
the engineering pathway, so we had like engineering and design classes, and I was also in the computer science pathway.
Yeah.
Very cool. Oh, I know one of the things of MIT is they require the SAT or the ACT as well too, right? So how'd you guys navigate that journey? Did you guys take it and kind of that the prep journey to get there?
Yeah. So when I was taking it, I think all the schools required it, like in 2018. So like all the schools required it, and they also required the subject test as well. So I had to take both the math and physics subject test for MIT. Yeah, I think I did a lot of prep like between my junior and senior year, which is I think pretty typical. Just like doing a bunch of practice tests. I took it 3 times. Every time was the first time was not great, and then the other 2 times were pretty, yeah, were like went better and better. So I was able to take it 3 times. I don't remember my exact score. It's been a hot second. So but I remember I took it 3 times and every time it improved. But like with each time I like took active steps to like knowing that I would improve. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, I guess I don't really remember how many times I took it. I know there was a couple times that I took it just to like take it and I didn't even really study for it, and that was kind of a waste. And I think my highest score ended up being the first one I took, because I think I felt the most prepared for the first one, and after that I was just taking it just to see if I could do better. But I ended up getting like a 1490, so it wasn't like a crazy high score or anything. And like after, and SATs I think were optional for me, but I still turned it in, and I feel like it's not considered as much as people think it is. Like there are so many other factors, and when colleges say like they have a holistic view, I genuinely believe that they do.
Awesome. So it sounds like you both actually like, and Fortnite is still a great score as well too. I think in terms of in like as of today, right? A lot of schools are going back to test required. I know MIT is now required again, and a bunch of other schools are required as well too. Can you share some tips on how I know you guys both said you guys both studied for it. As students are navigating through a journey right now, any tips or any recommendations you have when it comes to the studying for these ST or AC or even AP exams? I'm sure it's similar strategies, right? In terms of studying for exams, any tips you guys can share when it comes to that?
Yeah, I think I think a lot of the practice booklets do pretty well. I think like a lot of like people kind of know what these tests look like because they're like existed for such a long time. So especially for me, like the math section, like I feel like the problems are just repeats of the same problems, just with different numbers usually. So I think if you can like really hone in and like identify every single problem type that there is there, which I don't think there's that many, you could probably do pretty well, especially in the math section. And I think like sitting in like one room and doing the entire thing, because I think it's also like a stamina game, I think will like, you know, train you to do it. Um, I think, oh, sorry. Um, sorry. Yeah, I think that those are the biggest things to think about. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think, yeah. And for the AP test, again, just practice, practice, practice. I think, yeah, all my like, I think both like my math and physics teachers, like made us come in on Saturdays because they needed us to take like a 3 hour exam and that didn't fit into a class period. So we came in on Saturdays and we sat there and like in the room that we would be taking the test in. So like simulate the test environment as much as you can. Like maybe do it, I don't know if you have access, but like an unfamiliar room. I like took my SATs like all 3 times I took in the same location. Like my school didn't offer it, but I took it the same location. So I like felt more comfortable at the place. I'm like, I knew what classroom to go to. I knew where to look for. So every time, and I took all my subject tests at the same place. Every time I like felt more uncomfortable. So I think just like getting into that mindset is like really important. Cause yeah, it's just like mostly practice. I think the resources are definitely out there. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Probably the same thing, just a lot of practice. And I would say that there's so many good resources online that are free that like paying for SAT school isn't super necessary. I think it's helpful and it'll give you like structure and push you to actually do it. But if you're like trying to just learn it on your own, you definitely can. There are the same types of problems, and I know it's different now because it's digital, but I think that just like doing enough questions, like you're gonna find the same ones that happen over and over again. And even with like reading, they're like very easy strategies and very easy patterns to find. And like there's bit videos that break it down for you and talk about it. And the same thing with APs. Like my teacher also was like, come in on a Saturday, we're gonna do this makeup, or we're gonna do this like mock exam. And like I think doing that really helped me feel comfortable taking the exam because I wasn't burnt out on the day of, and I wasn't like I was ready for that. I will say I took the SAT at like different locations. And I feel like as long as you're like in an unfamiliar place, you start to get used to like just like focusing on what's on the book and what's on the test. And I think the biggest thing is like being able to focus. And something that I really like to do is like wake up an hour or two before the exam happens, to get like my brain working. So I'll do like practice problems and I'll like make sure that I feel ready for it before I take the exam. And that's something that really helped me whenever I was taking exams.
Awesome. Yeah, it looks like I think you both have like a system down of kind of how you guys are could study for the test, and you can clearly you guys are doing really well in MIT and beyond as well too. One of the big things that comes up, especially on this season, is like students kind of not struggling, I would say, but like, hey, they're like their grades are dropping a little bit as well too, right? So I know you all you both kind of juggled a bunch of honors level courses as well too. Any strategies when it comes to like I think either like just studying and also like time management, so you guys can kind of because you probably juggled a bunch of things academically at least. So without talking about activities yet, the TSPs there, how'd you guys kind of manage your academics? You can still keep the rigorous courseload but still also do well in your classes there.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I like sometimes look back and like, oh, how did I do it in high school? I feel like high school be like definitely like, yeah, pushed a lot harder than I like I'm like, oh, how'd I do that? I think a lot of it is like, yeah, like time management. I think I usually like the way I remember it is like they would give me like the amount of things I needed to do throughout the week. And I would just try like bringing it into chunks. And I think like just focusing it chunk by chunk made it really a lot easier. Um, I think that at least for math and physics, I feel like I had to shift my mindset to being like, oh, I need to memorize how to do this versus like I need to understand how this works. And then as soon as you understand how it works, it might take a little longer. Like things just kind of fall into a row really easily. I think also generally teachers are pretty at least our teachers are pretty like willing and open to give you like chances, like as long as you were showing that you're putting effort, like our teachers would be like, oh, if you got like a 5 on the AP test, like we'll like boost your final grade and things like that. Yeah, but I think like time management is pretty difficult, I would say, just because you're trying to balance all these classes. I think it's definitely a strategy game, being like, oh, like sometimes it's like literally like, oh, I have a 96 in this class and I have a like 87 in this class. I got to put more effort into this class to like pull my grade up. And this one I might have a little sacrifice and I need to dip it a bit. um yeah, and it's like also like, yeah, I think I found a lot of like friends in high school that were able to like, help me and things like that. But it definitely is a difficult thing to do. I think, yeah, I think a lot of it is like, I think a lot of people, at least from what I see, because I've like helped people like learn math and physics, is like they just try memorizing the steps. versus like understanding like the equations behind it and like what you're actually doing. And I think as soon as like that kind of clicked for me, I think things kind of fell pretty easily in a row. And I think like I like was able to like in my schedule, I was lucky where I was able to kind of like sneak in a couple like easier is might not be the right word, but like a little more low key AP classes like AP psychology. And those are like kind of like a mini little break between like calc, psychology, physics, computer science, and then like maybe something else. So it was a good like little, I think like being able to like have like other types of classes that engage other parts of your brain, but they still look impressive on your application. Helped a little bit as well. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's tough. I feel like it's like hard to be like, you just got to do it all and just be good at it. It's yeah, I feel like, but I think it well prepares you for college because I do think college is a little bit more intense in terms of like you basically learn like a year's full of content in like one semester in college. Like physics is just instead of over 9 months, it's over like 4 months, which makes it a little tougher. But yeah.
Yeah, I would say kind of the same thing. Time management, I honestly wasn't very good at it for a really long time, so I guess I don't have like the best tips for it. And I will say that like understanding concepts for like physics and math is so important and will make your life so much easier. But I know that there are definitely times where like I would have two exams on the same day or something like that. And so I would study really hard and try and understand for like one of the exams and for the other exam. And maybe this isn't great advice, but I would just like know how to solve the problems and know like the procedural steps. And that low-key like got me through it. Like it was fine and the grades were there, but I would say that like the conceptual understanding was really lacking. And like you pay for it a little bit later, but to like just like get past that day, I would do that. And another thing with classes is I feel like a lot of the people that were in my classes were like the same groups of people. And so like studying with them outside of class and being like having a support system to like ask kind of stupid questions to was really nice. And I think that was like one of the best ways to manage my time was like by scheduling like study groups with other people. And so I had to like commit to going and commit to studying for that test or for that class. And that helped me manage a lot of my time better because like for me, if I have free time, I will procrastinate, I'll push it off. And so like doing that really made me feel like, oh, I have to do this. Like this is a scheduled thing. And that was like something that worked for me.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So now we don't kind of done with academics, moving on to activities, the fun part, right? So outside of school, you guys are both smart. You guys juggle a lot of hard classes. But now, how did you spend the rest of your time? So in terms of activities, what clubs did you guys do? Sports, if you did sports, other things. I know you guys were involved in the community as well too. You kind of share kind of what you guys did, kind of also the because again, by the way, hopefully the advice so far is not don't do exactly what they're doing, right? I think it's learning the lessons of the why they're doing it. So you can kind of see the lessons of the activities, just kind of challenge yourself, rigorous courses while maintaining it. I think in terms of activities, if you can kind of also share kind of why you did each activity, just to give like the mentality of, oh, what's that for me for other students? If you're gonna go ahead and share that.
Yeah. So I think a big part of my high school was I was part of the robotics team. When I joined my sophomore year, and when I was joining, the robotics team was kind of just budding up, like just kind of starting up. I think it started like becoming semi-serious like a year before I joined. And a big reason I wanted to join was I felt like I was into STEM, but like I never really got any like hands-on experience with it. So I was really interested in joining this team. And yeah, it was kind of like I wasn't like super like I want to join the robotics team. There was just like tryouts. I'm like, oh, this seems interesting, and I like just tried out and I like made it. And I think that was a really big thing for me. I think through robotics, it was like a lot of hours, but I did like the first program, which is like a robotics program. And a good thing about this is it kind of like you both do like STEM, like, learning hands-on robot building, but you also get some experience with like volunteering and outreach. And that's something that I actually like am really passionate about. And I think that like having that balance between like just like hardcore, like we gotta like build this robot, we also like could host like volunteering events and like kind of having that like, and also building soft skills, because a big part of it is like both like outreaching to engineers, talking to like and trying to spread STEM in the community, which is really big, like of outreaching to the community, and also like presenting to like the judges and saying like, oh, this is what we done, this is the like communicating everything to all the judges, all the teachers, having to do fundraisers, like learning how to take initiative for that. But yeah, so robotics is a really, really big thing. Is where I spent most of my time in high school. I also did science Olympiad again. Like yeah, when I was joining, I feel like all the STEM things are slowly budding. But the science Olympiad was like slowly budding. And I just joined science Olympiad because my robotics coach was also the science Olympiad coach, and he was like, "Oh, you should try this out." And I also just did the engineering events because I think I was always kind of more drawn to like building stuff. Yeah, so science Olympiad was also pretty big. I also like we traveled a lot, like went to I'm from Southern California, went to Northern California a lot to like do competitions there, and you were able to like bond with people. And a lot of us were in the same classes, so we were able to do homework with each other, which is really nice. Yeah, science Olympiad is like more competitive, like science, less like outreachy, like volunteering based stuff. But it was good to kind of like practice those skills. And I think I didn't do any of the study events, but I think a lot of the study events apply to like not like directly, like you don't learn about like bugs in science Olympiad, you don't learn about that in school, but like a lot of the study techniques apply, I think. And I think the last like kind of big thing I did was I started like the UNICEF club. This was just because I wanted to like start a club. I think like robotics and science Olympiad both had kind of a competition aspect to it, and I kind of was just interested in doing something, through the school, like just fundraising money. We weren't like a super big club, but I think just like having something that wasn't super sciencey and STEM, um, but also like being able to be like a leader of a club, I think was really important to me because yeah, I think it would like help me practice my leadership skill. I think I also like I chose my advisor to be my math teacher, so because of that she was able, not because I didn't do it because of that, she just happened to be the person I was closest to at the time, but as a result I was able to get a pretty good letter of rec from her because she saw me both in like the math class and also in like volunteering and helping and stuff like that. Yeah, and another thing about my math class, I guess, my math teacher, I think is I also like would always volunteer to help other people in math, and I think she really valued that in me. So I think she was able to write a pretty good letter of rec because it shows like both like it shows like, oh, she has a really good understanding of like calculus, but also like she's willing to help others, she's a good person. And I think like a lot of the college is looking for is like both how like academically rigorous you are, but also like who you are as a character. And I think because of that she was able to write a pretty good like letter of rec. I was never able to read it, but a pretty good letter of rec about my like character and also my academic achievements, I guess.
Yeah. Um, I would say my extracurricular experience was pretty similar in some ways. So I think the biggest thing for me was like starting freshman and sophomore year, I was trying to like do everything. So I just tried to join a bunch of clubs and tried like a bunch of activities. And like from there, I noticed things that I didn't like. And so like I was also part of my high school's robotics team and my high school science Olympiad team and a bunch of other clubs. And I eventually like dropped out of science Olympiad. Like I stopped doing it my junior year just because I felt like it wasn't something that excited me in the same way that robotics did. And that was something that like made me realize that a lot of the things that I want to do and felt worthwhile for me were things that like made me feel passionate about learning. And when you have so many extracurriculars and academics and whatever else, it is so easy to get burnt out. And so if you're spending time doing things that are like burning you out and you're not liking it and you're not learning from it and you're doing it just to like write on your college app, it's not going to really matter as much as you think it will. And so I guess like in high school, the like main extracurriculars I did were my high school robotics team, and I was also a captain. And so we did a lot of like outreaching and went to the community and did a lot of things with like assistive technology. And that was like a big thing that I wanted to introduce to my team. And then I also did research at a local community college, and I just like learned we were working on like joint attachments. And like we looked at like joint mobility and the way that people with like low grasp function, like how to help that. And so that was some research that I did. And I also did a summer program at Carnegie Mellon called AI for All. And that was like such a wonderful program for me. I think I learned so much and I met some of the most passionate people ever. And I did end up talking about it in my college app. And I did like piano as well. But I would say like for the most part, like with all my activities, like the thing that I really, really got deep into was my robotics team. And so a lot of hands-on build experience, but a lot of like bringing those hands-on build experiences to the community and showing them like how amazing this program is. Like if you had the chance to do FIRST Robotics, like FTC or FRC, I like really recommend it. It was one of the most valuable learning experiences for me, and I have only positive things to say about it. And our team actually ended up going to like the World Championship, which is in Houston, and so we got to travel, and that was super fun. And yeah, and so I think that for me, a lot of what I like to do was very collaborative, and it was a lot of like learning with people and not just like sitting down and taking a test. I feel like that was something that I was really not good at. And so that's like I think a lot of my extracurriculars like reflect that. And yeah, I would say the Carnegie Mellon, like for summer programs, like there are so many summer programs out there at like every single college ever, and a lot of them are very expensive. And I would say that it's not always worth your money to pay like $4,000 or $5,000 for a summer program at an Ivy League. It's not as worth it as you think, and it doesn't like unless like the course is something that you really think you'll learn from. I would say that it's not super worth it. The good thing about like the Carnegie Mellon program was that it was completely paid for. So like my flights were paid for, housing was paid for, food was paid for, like the cost of the class was paid for, and it was like because of that, I think I had such like a positive view of the experience because I could tell that the teachers cared about our well-being and cared about our learning, and that's what they wanted to prioritize. And so because of that, I just had such a good experience and I got to learn so much because I wasn't focused on other aspects and things. Like I think the biggest thing I would say is also like my high school was never like a super smart or like feeder school or big high school or anything like that. Like a lot of students went to UCs, and they went to like Berkeley and LA, which is amazing, but we weren't like a huge feeder school. And I think a lot of people think that it's hard to find affordable and accessible STEM opportunities. And that's true, but I think there's so much out there that you can get involved in by reaching out to like local community colleges, finding there are so many summer programs that like are fully covered, and personal projects that you can work on, working with your teachers on personal projects. Like there's so much opportunity out there. That I think that it's like very possible to get involved if you really want to. And another really big thing is like when I was learning something, like if I didn't really love doing it, I kind of like stopped doing it, which wasn't that great. But as I was like learning more, I started to realize that the things that I like doing make me want to learn. And so like that was the biggest thing for me. Like I wanted to make sure whatever I was doing was making me excited to learn. And that's what like I recommend a lot of other people to do. Like do things that you like doing because like for reference, I did piano for like 10 years, and it was like a little blurb in my activity section, and I went to this like summer camp for 3 weeks, and it was a whole supplemental. And I feel like because like things leave an impact on you, and it's very obvious when you're writing your college app. And so like when you do your extracurriculars, really think about the fact that you like doing them and not just to do them just to do them. But yeah, I'm really grateful for the opportunities that I had. And yeah, I think there's so much out there for you to learn and for you to do, and never feel like you are like not passionate about anything because there's so much out there.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think MIT also has two like summer programs. There's MIT WTP, which is Women's Technologies Program, which I think is also free. Like I made some content for it, so I think it's free and it's for like just women in STEM. And I think there's another one called like MIT. I think it's called MITES, and I'm not sure what the ES. I think it's MIT ES, and I'm not sure what the like maybe educational studies. And that also was like a summer program that I think is free. So MIT has a bunch, and they'll like I think they fly you over and they let you stay there. The Carnegie Mellon has some. I'm sure there's some like local ones like from like colleges that are like local to you that you like don't have to stay there and maybe you don't have to pay as much. So yeah, I think like I never took advantage of this, but both of my other sisters did. And they were able to like have really amazing experiences. And it's kind of like a little sneak peek into college, which is really cool.
Yeah. And like one of the questions I think on a UC or somewhere is like, what is one thing that helped you prepare for college? And it was like so easy to write that because I lived at a college, I experienced college life. And so that was like just really easy for me to write.
Super funny how you guys, I kept writing questions to ask, but you kept answering the question as we go. That's why, our coaches are incredible. They know what I'm thinking all the time as well. And then those who haven't put together yet, Coach Michelle and Coach Sarah are sisters
Oh,
as
yeah.
well too. I don't think we prefaced that, but I think it kind of alluded to that as well too. Awesome. I think before we jump into the, 'cause I think you pretty much answered all the side questions I had about activities, and you kind of did a little mini lesson in each one as well. Before we talk about the application process itself, something I just realized a lot of students don't really know too much is the engineering space, right? I think you guys were involved in a lot of engineering based things, and then going to school for it as well. Can you kind of break down? Because I don't think some parents even know what engineering. They just think like robots or like that's their only thing of engineering. If you can kind of break down kind of from what what you're learning right now in school, and kind of like if you could explain it to a high school student, and also if a student is unsure if they want to go engineer, is there some guideline questions, some questions they should ask themselves to say, oh yeah, I would be interested in this field? If you can touch upon the engineering space as a whole first.
Yeah. So yeah, I kind of like I was in a similar space because like going into high school, I'm like, I want to do, I know I like wasn't a huge like STEM, sorry, a huge humanities person. So like going in, I'm like, I'm leaning towards math. Like I didn't really even know what physics was. So like this robotics team just seemed really interesting to me. And I think that the robotics team is like you just basically build a robot. And I think that's like a really small snippet of what like engineering is. So engineering has like a lot of fields. So me and Michelle are both like mechanical engineering, which mostly has to do a lot with like physical systems. And right now I'm in a robotics lab, doing like space robot stuff, at Texas A&M. And like I think my advisor is really like big into like the triple threat of engineering, which is like you're good at electrical, software, and mechanical. I'm pretty strong at mechanical, electrical, software we're working on a bit. So yeah, I'm like questions about, I think like to ask yourself, I guess, before getting to mechanical is, um, my friend says this and I kind of agree. It's kind of like advanced common sense. This is why I kind of like mechanical engineering. It's like when it's computer science, it's like, oh, if your code doesn't work, you're like, oh, like what's wrong? Mechanical engineering, you're like, something breaks, you're like, oh, that thing broke. My shaft broke. Uh-oh. Um, but it's like kind of like advanced, like common sense in some ways. It is very math heavy. And I think I'm not a huge math person, I would say, but I like doing math with a, if I know that it's gonna help me to get somewhere. So like learning like calculus, I think I was like, why am I learning this? And then I learned physics, and you're like, oh, like taking these derivatives and learning derivatives is helpful for learning like velocity and acceleration. Like that's pretty cool. And like later on, you go deeper and deeper. I think like having a, I think it's important to have a pretty strong love for math. And like for me, I really like physics. It was a really strong struggle to learn it, or hard struggle to learn it, but I really like it. Um, but yeah, a lot of my days are right now like sitting at a computer and trying to get like a motor to spin because I'm not that strong in electrical. But I think that the robotics team is a pretty good small glimpse. I think like our robotics team wasn't coached by like an engineer, but I think there are a lot of robotics teams that are. I think there's like a lot of facets. Like there's people who do like safety engineering who like kind of just like look at like into like look at things and like, oh, is this safe, and coming up with guidelines for things are safe. I'm more of like a hands-on like mechanical engineer, so I'm like designing things in SolidWorks. I think a really good snippet is to look at like, I think yeah, I think Mythbusters is a pretty cool like kind of like glimpse of things and seeing how STEM works. I think like if you're really interested on how like inner things work, and I will say I think it was a lot more deeper and complex when I came in initially. I'm like, oh, you're just like building a thing that spins. Apparently making things spin is pretty difficult. Um, yeah, I don't really know. I feel like I need more specific questions about engineering to answer a little bit more about it. Um, but I think it's really fun. I think it's a good balance of like you do like really hard like things with designing stuff and you use your brain, and then like a week later you like turn off brain, just builds, and you like build it like an IKEA furniture because you like know it in your head. So I think it's a really good balance of like, yeah, like physical like building where you can kind of turn off your brain, zone out, and just like screw a bunch of stuff together, but also you have to like zone back in and like the design stuff. So I think it's a really good balance for me, at least, to have like hands-on, but not also just, yeah, more hands-on, but also having the opportunity to like do in-depth thinking without, but also not sitting on a computer like all day long. Yeah, I think, yeah, and it's cool.
Yeah, I would
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, I feel like people say this and people are like, what even is engineering? And I honestly can't tell you. I think there's so many little aspects to it, and there's so many different categories like biomedical engineering, bioengineering, like robotics, and there's like so many little things that I feel like if you're interested in like the general field of engineering, you'll probably find like this little bubble that is perfect for you. And it's hard to find that little bubble. And I feel like mechanical engineering is still like a really big bubble. And so it's like very broad. And if you still don't know exactly what it is you want to do, I would say mechanical engineering is like a pretty safe bet. For me, it was the same thing. Like I need to visually see something and understand what's happening because like comp sci is very scary, confusing to me. And other things like bio and chem also very confusing to me because I just can't see and process what's happening. But for me, like physics like makes sense to me and I can like see how things are moving. And it's not just like this is a law, but it's like look at this, like this just makes sense. Like it is advanced common sense in a way. Um, and I would say like if you're interested in going into the engineering field, um, I think that you don't really know until you really have like one experience where you've tried it and you have failed in some way or have struggled and you know that like even though you've struggled through it, it's still fun for you and you had a fun time trying to solve a problem even if it didn't work. And I think that's when I knew that I liked engineering is that I would fail and I would struggle and I would hate physics and everything, but at the end like I would still do it because it was like fun in some ways and you are learning things that are really cool, like understanding how things move and why they move is so interesting because you never think about it in the moment, but then you realize like all these little things are happening. And like I think that's super cool. And that's kind of how I knew that I liked engineering. Also, like being on a robotics team and actually building, I was like, yeah, this is something that I can see myself doing. But I would say like don't stress about it too much. If you just are interested in it, try it. Just really, really try it. Try like building something, a personal project or like anything. And I think that's like the best way to see if you like the subject or not. And that goes the same for like any other major subject that you want to go into.
Yeah, I also think it's also a very collaborative like major. Like I think like you work on a team. Like I'm on a team, and yeah, and also something that's like fun is you kind of geek out about like, oh, this like cap fits really well on this like bottle. It's like this is crazy. They got the tolerances so well. They like how'd they do that? It's kind of fun. Like Legos. Legos are crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have like a lot of appreciation for like little things, and it's like pretty amazing how we were able to get where we are. Just because
Yeah.
like yeah, things are pretty hard to make apparently. That's why we have
I
jobs.
love that's true. I love the collaborative aspect of engineering. I think that's so unique in so many like different fields. And I like need it. Like I crave, I need to be able to like talk to people and know what they think of my ideas and like get feedback. That's such a big thing for me. And so that's like another big reason why I liked engineering. And it is just like really fun. I think designing things is really fun. And one of my favorite things is like sitting with a room of people and just being like, all right, let's brainstorm. And this is going to be a really bad, awkward process, but it's going to come together and it's going to work. And seeing what you like thought of come to life is one of the most rewarding experiences ever. And I loved it.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you for that. In terms, so now moving on to the application process. So if you think back to senior year, you both, right? Senior both, probably crazy time. A lot of our seniors right now are also going through this process as well too right now. So if you kind of share like your senior kind of journey in general, like the applications. I know Coach Michelle did early action for MIT. Coach Sarah, you did regular. I'm curious to know the differences and curious to know kind of why you chose it. Did you guys apply to any other schools? How did you guys create your college list and kind of the whole process as a whole? If you guys kind of try and shine some light on basically senior year itself.
Yeah, so I also applied early, but to Stanford, but I didn't get in. But yeah, but I think it was good to set myself that deadline just because I think I was able to pre-write a lot of stuff. Stanford also has one of the most, I think, rigorous applications. Like they ask like the most random questions. But I was able to kind of pre-write my stuff. I also was like really ready to ask my teachers for letters of rec. And I think I was able to get like my teachers and a lot of my teachers, like after like they got 10 students, asked them, they like kind of cut off. They're like, oh, I don't like, I have too many students. So I was able to ask, or I asked, I just knew I wanted to apply early. So I asked them really early and I was like one of the first couple people to ask. So I was able to get like all the teachers I wanted to get letters of rec from, which was really big and something that people don't consider. I asked them like, I think my like first week of school, like senior year. I like pre-asked math teacher like my sophomore year. I'm like, you're writing my letter of rec, but that was kind of a joke. But yeah, so that was really big for me. And then I kind of focused on, I had like, because I was working on the Stanford early application, I had like a rough common app already. It was honestly pretty rough. I think I rushed it a little bit too much. And then I focused on the UCs. I think my focus was I thought I was gonna go to school in California. I'm from California. I didn't really set my bar too high. I didn't really know like that much about the college system. So I was just like, I'll just apply to everywhere, I guess. So I applied to a lot of like I applied to like all the UCs, or most of the UCs, like USC, Stanford, like Caltech, like Harvey Mudd, all those. Like I knew I wanted to do STEM, so I kind of focused on like STEM schools. And outside of California, I think I applied to like Carnegie Mellon. I think I applied to a couple Ivies. Honestly, I didn't really do the most research into like the Ivies. I was just like, oh, it's like a big name school. So I applied to Harvard. Um, and yeah, actually I applied to MIT like not it wasn't on my original list just because it was a separate application. It seemed kind of annoying. But I think I finished my applications like a week or two earlier than I thought, or like MIT's was due a week or two later. So I would just like, I guess I have time. I guess I'll just throw in another one, I guess. So I kind of was like very much shooting my shot wherever I could. Yeah, but I applied to quite a bit of colleges. Yeah, and I think, yeah, I was writing, and I think, yeah, Stanford pushed me to finish it by like October, like late October, I think, about right now. And then, yeah, and I think that I basically kind of took a semi pause, like senior year stuff, like in terms of academic, like I obviously still like scored like pretty well, but like I kind of was like, this is the focus. And I think most teachers are aware, like seniors, this is their focus. Even like robotics, I was like, I'm taking like 2 months off, like this is my focus. And like all the seniors did, and everyone understood. So I like pretty much locked in. And then like I think like it ends in like January. So I think I just like continually edited essays. I wasn't like really big on like sharing my essays with like my peers or anything like that, but I would share it with like yeah, like kind of like coaches, but like not official coaches, but like other people that I think like went through the process already. Yeah, it was like stressful for sure. And I think I really focused on I think I started with like outlining the answers that I wanted to answer, like the response I wanted to answer, and then slowly building from there. And I tried my best to inject as much personality and like balance between personality and content. I think was really key for me. Um, yeah, it was definitely very stressful time, especially as like acceptances are rolling in. So I feel very sympathetic to the current people applying right now. Yeah.
Yeah, college app season, I think I don't even remember so much of it because it's like a trauma block. Like I hate it's one of the worst experiences a person has to ever go through. Like I can't believe I went through that. That's actually crazy to me. So I understand the stress and I understand the confusion and the like very it's like a lot of anxiety and a lot is moving super fast. And it sucks because it's like your last year of high school and you're not even really enjoying it because you're so stressed about other things. But I will say that like for me, I applied to like most of the UCs because I'm from California. But I didn't really want to stay in California because well, like Sarah kind of set the like tone for me and my family where like we never expected any of us to kind of go anywhere that crazy. And so like once I think she took that step, we realized that like, oh, like you can take the step. And I think that's a big thing. Like if you're not sure if you're gonna get into something or you're like, oh, I don't know, like if there's a really small chance like that chance is still there. And if you never tried, like if she never turned in that application, like imagine how like different everything would be. So like just push it and just try it because you never know what's gonna happen. But because I think she set that precedent for our family, I was like less afraid to like do that. And I also like for some reason hated California. Now I miss it so badly. But I was like, I need to move out of California and get as far away from home as possible. So I'm gonna apply to only East Coast schools and so I applied to MIT, and I applied to MIT early just because I think I just wanted to know, like, I just wanted to know if I was going to get in or not. And if I wasn't going to get in, I was like, oh, well, like, now we can focus on other things. And I really didn't expect to get in early. I think I was like in shock for like a week after. I was like, what the heck just happened? Um, so I applied early, and I think because I applied early, I super duper slacked on all my other Common App applications. And so I only applied to Carnegie, Harvard, and Columbia, all on the East Coast. And So like for those applications, for some reason I was being really silly and didn't actually submit them. Like I think you're supposed to click the submit button twice or something. But I got like emails and I just never checked. But I got emails and it was like, hey, we never received any of your supplementals. And I noticed it like a month after and I was like, oh no, like that's not good. So always check your emails, make sure you're checking your emails. But yeah, because of that, I got rejected by Harvard and Carnegie Mellon, which is fine, you know, I'll take it to the chin. And then I got waitlisted by Columbia. So that was fun. And then UC's, I got waitlisted by LA. I got into Berkeley early, and I don't really remember anything else. I think I got into like UCI. I don't really remember. But yeah, so for me, like once I got into MIT, I like super slacked, which is not what I recommend at all. I think it's so good to have options and choices and like I'm really happy here and I'm really grateful that I am here, but it would have been so much nicer for me to be like, maybe I should pick between this and this, but I kind of didn't have any other options. And so I was picking really between like Berkeley and MIT. And for like both of those schools, I had full rides. So like that wasn't a big aspect. And so for me, it was just like really location wise. And also the class size of MIT is a lot smaller, which I really liked. In terms of writing the application, I think because I was so miserable during that whole college app season, I tried to have as much fun with it as possible. And for me, like I really do like writing and I think it's fun in many ways. And I think because of that, I took kind of a unique or more creative aspect with a lot of my essays, which is a big risk. And I think it didn't work out for some schools and it did. And yeah, so I tried to have a lot of fun with it. And like Sarah said, like personality, I think is such a big thing. Specifically, like I don't know about other schools, but like for MIT specifically, I think that's such a big thing because when you're up against people that are infinitely more intelligent than you, the only thing you really have is the fact that you're like a fun, passionate person. And that's what I was really trying to portray, like that I was someone that had a lot of interests and was really into doing what I was doing. And even if I wasn't like a national or international medal winner or anything crazy like that, that I like loved doing it and that it really made me excited to know that what I was doing was going to like impact someone. And that was a big thing I focused on in my application was impact on other people and making sure that my work was something that could like help others. And I think a lot of like the extracurriculars and work I did reflected that. And so it was easy to talk about it in my application. But I think like, I guess specifically for the MIT app, because I think that's like what I did the best on, is like what are like a lot of the questions they're asking are for you to not talk about your academics. Like they don't really need to know all of that. And there are definitely some questions where you're invited to talk about academics specifically and show off the fact that you're smart and hardworking. But there are other questions that they just really want to know what kind of person you are. And they ask you, like, what do you do just for fun? Or like, what's something that makes you who you are? And I think that, like, those questions, I really took them as just like asking about me and not as like, I need to make sure I sound smart in these essays still. And I think that they appreciated that. And I will say that like a lot of the people that you meet here are people that are kind of like quirky and passionate and do a lot of things just because they love doing it. Like people will be stressed out of their minds and still have time to join like two clubs because they just love doing it or like take classes and workshops because they just want to learn how to use machinery. And I think like that was such a big aspect. And I will say that I think the only reason I got in really was because of my essays. I don't think that my grades or anything were that crazy. I don't think my extracurriculars were that crazy, but I think I really liked the way that I portrayed myself. And I feel like when I turned it in, I was like, this is like who I am. And if they like it, they like it. And if they don't, they don't. And so I was really like okay with just letting it go and turning it in early. Even if though I didn't feel like I was super duper prepared to turn it in early, I kind of was just like ready to do it. And yeah, that was like just what worked best for me. In my UC app, I also kind of tried to have fun with it and be a little quirky about it. And I think that some schools appreciated that and other schools didn't. But I think like at the end of the day, like if you don't fit with the school, you don't fit with the school. And that's like something you just have to accept and know. And I think that that makes sense because a lot of the other students you meet here are going to be like a certain kind of person. And so if you don't fit with that school, you're probably not going to fit with like these certain type of people. So like all kind of works out in the end. I think that like college app, when you're in it and when you're stressing about it, it's like the biggest deal in the world. And then once it's over, you realize that you like did so much work and you put so much effort in and you have to be proud of yourself for it. And there's so much opportunity wherever you go that like wherever you end up, it's just like gonna be a good experience for you, and you have to like just know that it's gonna be a good experience.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Wow, this time is speeding by right now. So really quick, in the chat, those who are here, people, thank you for everyone for tuning in so long. If you guys have questions, go ahead and start dropping in the chat. We'll do a little like speed rapid Q&A a little bit. But one question I would love to kind of just poke both your brains because you guys at graduate from MIT. Can you share like just one thing you expected coming to MIT? Like, ah, yes, that's what I expected. And one thing you like a pleasant surprise, like one thing you didn't expect being at slash graduating from MIT, like going to MIT? What was something you expected? And oh yes, those rumors, those things, that's true. And then what's something that, oh wow, I didn't know this, or I didn't predict this being there.
Yeah, I think a big thing is MIT has a really big, which I enjoy, but like a pretty big nerd culture. So instead of like, yeah, so instead of like having like your traditional like football team and stuff, I think we have a pretty competitive like integration. Like they integrate really well teams.
Yeah, like an integration B.
Integration B, yeah. And I think yeah, they have like kind of that quirky thing, and I think like they also like the rumors like of like yeah, like people like building roller coasters and like the front lawn of things, and there's a lot of like kind of like it's called like hacker culture where you kind of like build something that's kind of outrageous that like maybe is like the school doesn't super approve, but they think it's really cool. So I think that was really fun, and I think there's a lot more. I think yeah, it's like it was cool. I thought, but it was almost unexpected. I think a lot of the mechanical classes they do try injecting a lot more fun into it than like I thought I would expect. So like I took like a toy design class where I was able to design toys, and that was really fun. I think like even our like senior design project, just because I also am like a grad student at A&M and I see what the A&M people are doing, like they're doing like serious stuff, and we made like a paint mixer machine because we thought it was fun. So I think there's a lot more. They try injecting it with a lot more fun and creativity while also learning on the side. And I think a big thing is because MIT isn't insecure about like, oh, we have to be a big legit school because they're kind of confident in themselves, like as a school. So I think they're able to have a little more fun in the way that they teach and the way that they learn, which is something like I didn't totally expect. I thought it'd just be like serious, like head down all the time. So it was really fun to be able to see that. Yeah, I think yeah, those are kind of the two big things, I think.
Yeah, same for me. Like the nerd culture is something that's like very big. And I've talked to people here before who like got accepted into a lot of other schools, and they were like, I was so scared to come here because I thought everyone was going to be super weird and quiet. And I think I definitely expected that same thing too. But there are like so many different types of people here that you're bound to find a bubble that fits you. And it like can take a while. I will say like my first year, I definitely was like more to myself and kept to myself. But like this year, I've started to meet a lot more people in my major and people that are so fun and cool and exciting. Um, and I think that's another thing is like I think people expect MIT to be very like strict and hardcore, but they're honestly really understanding of like your situation. And so we have like if you're not feeling well and you need an extension on assignments, or if you like aren't able to take a test on this day, like they're pretty understanding of it, like to an extent. And so like that's another thing that's really nice. There's also like a better social studying balance. Like this was a question I think in the Q&A, but like there's a pretty good studying social balance. And for me, like I am someone that is a little more of a social butterfly. Like I like to go out and I like to like explore other schools, and like I like football culture, and MIT doesn't really have one. So like going to like local schools, and there's so many schools here. There's like BU, BC, Harvard, Wellesley. Like there's so many schools around here that like it's just like a college town, which I really love. And you like meet people at other schools, and that's really fun. But I think the biggest thing is like people expect you to be quiet and just like really smart and nerdy and like constantly coding or something like that. And you'll see people and you'll meet people that are like that. And that's just because they love doing what they're doing. But there's also some super cool people. Like there's this girl that goes to the workshop and literally just designs clothing and like cuts things out of metal and puts them onto like clothes. And there's like sewing machines everywhere. There's like super fashionable and super cool people here. And there's like frat parties and there's social events, and they make sure that you feel very welcome. And like I think the work hard, like play hard kind of aspect does fit in with a lot of the classes. Like they don't want to just be like sitting in front of a blackboard and teaching you things. They want you to like be doing things. And I think that's the reason why so many people from MIT end up like becoming entrepreneurs and things like that, is because they really like push you to try things that aren't just like knowing and a bunch of knowledge, but it's like here is how you take action. Now take action and do it. And there's also so many support systems for you to do whatever you want. doing a startup here, there's so much startup funding. There's so many ways to like find internships or find like things to do on campus, and connect with like the tech industry and everything that's nearby, which is really great. But yeah, I think that there's so many misconceptions about the school, and you'll find people that are quieter and that are more focused on their work. But I would say that there's so many people, and like for me especially, I was someone in high school that was like kind of rebellious, really wanted to go out and not do a lot of work. And so like I still found my people here who are fun and are exciting. And I think like don't let that like stereotype hold you back, because it's not as true as you would think it is.
Awesome. Cool. All right. I think you kind of casually answered a bunch of questions in the chat during your responses. So one of them I love to one of the families asked what percent of first year students at MIT's don't make it to second year due to the rigor? If you guys know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think MIT actually has a pretty like high like graduation rate. And the big thing that they do is your first semester there is pass fail. So you, or not even pass fail, pass no record. You literally cannot fail a class your first semester at MIT. You literally will, like all the classes that you take, like they also limit the amount of classes you can take because they're aware that like these are pretty like highly motivated people. If you let them do whatever they want, they're going to take like 20 classes. So they like purposely limit you there. And they also put you on a pass no record. So you could like if you get an A, B, or C, it just shows up as a pass. And then if you get a D or F, nothing shows up. It's like it never happened. So that's like a pretty good way to ease you into the school. Because like by then, like you're less focused on like I have to get an A in this class, but because you literally can't get an A, you're focused on like how do I change my teaching and learning style to fit this college like academic rigor, because it's a pretty big transition, right, from like going to like a school 6-hour day to like something that's a little more different in college, going to like office hours and stuff like that. And the second semester it's ABC no record, so you literally cannot fail a class your first year at MIT. You either get an ABC or it literally doesn't show up. Like the only thing they'll do is like maybe take you a little longer to graduate. They also like your first like week there for your freshman year, they do test you on like your like math and your physics, and it's not like to kick you out or anything. It's literally to be like, let's place you in the right class. And they're pretty good. Like coming in, I noticed that people were like pretty difficult different levels, just because like people come from like schools that are like really like, you know, or people come from schools that like don't offer these AP classes, and they're pretty like impressively like really good at getting everyone to the same level. So I don't know a single person who left MIT for academic stuff, like for academic. Yeah, they're really, really good about trying to get you there as soon as you're in. And I think a huge thing is if they accept you, like they know that you can do it. Like they almost say like the hardest part about MIT is literally getting into MIT. Like as soon as you're in, they're gonna like do everything they can to push you up. So like I think like 0%. It probably isn't 0%, but I literally don't know anyone personally who didn't who left after their second year. Like not a single person at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I think imposter syndrome is huge here. Everyone thinks that everyone else is a genius and that they're not good enough for the school, and that's such a normal feeling to have here. But like at the end of the day, you got in, you're good enough to go to the school, and you're like you can work hard enough to get the grades to pass and to do well. And I know a lot of people, like I guess I know a couple people who were pretty stressed and were like, I can't do it, I'm gonna transfer, it's gonna go terribly and stuff like that. But like they made it through, and they made it through just fine. And it's like there are so many support systems for you. And the thing of is like professors, they really, really, really want you to pass. And it's not like there's like grade inflation or they're like, oh, we'll like switch up this rule for you, but they're like, I will like sit down and teach you everything you need to know. Like I will have extra office hours. There are student teachers that will help and sit down with you and schedule times with you, and you can learn just one-on-one. Like there are so many support systems for you to like do well. And I think that a really big thing about the school is like they really focus on the learning experience and not on the grades. And the grades kind of come with the learning experience. Like when you understand something and when they know that you understand something, then you're going to get better grades. And so as long as you have like a decent grasp of what's going on, you're going to do fine on the exams. You're going to do like just fine. And also like the P sets, like the problem sets and the homework assignments are very reflective of what's on the exam, and they're not going to do anything like crazy to you. it's just like knowing what's happening. That's like the biggest thing. And I will say that like it is stressful, especially when like you go from high school and things are pretty easy and then you come here and things are like very hard. And like I will consistently text like Sarah, like, hey, I kind of did bad on this exam. Like, what do I do about this? Like, should I drop this class? Like, what am I doing? And she's always just like, it's gonna be okay. Like, it's not that serious. And it really wasn't that serious. Like, it all worked out fine. So yeah, like, don't be too stressed about like thinking that you're gonna drop out. I would say the biggest reason why people drop out is because they start a startup and it goes really well, and then they drop out for a year to like pursue their startup, and then they come back. Like, that's like the biggest reason why I think most people don't complete their education, and not because like classes are too hard or like things like that. Like it's definitely doable and there's so much support for you to get. And yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. We have one final guest question before I have like a closing question for you guys. Coach Art, he couldn't make it today, but he sent in the question for you guys. He gave you guys both a shout out. Again, Coach Michelle, Coach Sarah, two of our top coaches in our program. You guys can kind of see why. They're amazing. Question from Coach Art: what drives both you to help our students? Very cheesy question. That's what too.
That's a good question. I think I like came in like I was like I'm like the oldest sister, so the whole college applications like thing, and even like the future in general was very like very mysterious. Like we have like neither of my parents are engineers. They don't really know what that system is. Neither of them, or I guess yeah, but like yeah, they have no idea what it takes to get to engineering. I didn't even super know if I wanted to get into engineering. I was just like something that I'm like it was more like cross elimination. Like I didn't like this, I didn't like this, but it was a really big question mark. And I think I had a lot of questions. And I think that going into the college application season, I'm like, who am I as a person? And I think like combing that out and figuring out like what my values are and who I am as a character was almost like transformative. And I think that it was very stressful. And I think that, but being able to like kind of like it's almost like you kind of like know and you don't really think about it as much, but as you're writing out you're like, who am I as a person? And I think like it was very transformative and like kind of like telling like experience for me. And I think that like helping other students being able to find like what they're passionate, what drives them, like who do they want to be as a like person in the future. I think this is like such a like a pivotal moment in like I feel like your life. And I don't mean to make it sound like, oh, it's end all be all if you didn't get to like X school or whatever. But I think that it's such a pivotal moment to like figure out who you are, like not even figure out who you are as a person now, but who you want to be. And it's just like so exciting. And I think that being able to like see these people like write their essays and like figure out like who they want to be and like who like based off your past experience, like who I want to be in the future. It's just really exciting. And I think it's really, I think I'm also really pro, like I like had no parents that did STEM. So it's hard for me to get into STEM. So I'm really pro, like, let's try to get people into STEM. So like right now I help like the internship program at my, like in my lab and stuff like that. Cause I think it's like pretty hard to get your hands on. So I think that that's just also something that really makes me passionate, like finding people, connecting them to like, you know, what their future passion should be. And that's really cool to like be able to be a part of that.
Yeah, kind of the same thing here. I think our parents really raised us with these values where like when you're doing STEM for so long, and especially because I had older sisters, like I guess Sarah didn't really have anyone, but because I had older sisters, I kind of knew what I was gonna do or wanted to try. Um, but another thing with like having parents that aren't like that are immigrants and that don't really know things about STEM is that it's so easy to fall into like these big misconceptions that like, oh, in order to do well, I have to pour my money into this or I have to like do this. And there's like really no right path to doing STEM and to doing college and whatever. But for me, like education was something that my parents really valued, and they instilled those values with us where they were like, you have to take advantage of your opportunities. And you also have to realize that like this is a privilege. Like once you have that realization when you're doing STEM for so long, you're kind of just doing it over and over again. But then like some days it like clicks where you realize that you are so lucky to be doing something that you love doing. And some people have never touched a screwdriver, have never touched like these things before, and will never know what that feels like and will never like experience the joy that you have just because there's no opportunity for them. And so like that realization really made me like want to help people get and find whatever they want to do. I think everyone deserves to do something that they love doing and pursue whatever they want to do. And so like when I heard about college admission secrets, like I wanted to be involved and help students because I think I had older sisters helping me and that was really like so helpful. And I wanted to like do that for other people. another thing is like I'm taking an education class at MIT and I'm learning about like the way people learn and think and develop who they are. And I think that that process is a very nuanced and like crazy thing to like learn about. Like people are just like kids growing up and they have to like find a career and it's like so much to think about. But at the end of the day, like I think figuring out who you are and what you want to do is such like a beautiful process that's also very scary. And I understand what that's like. And so I want to help other people with that because it's confusing and it doesn't make any sense and it's very stressful. And so I wanted to help people through that process. And I think another thing is like we didn't have a lot of like people helping us that much with our essays. Like we definitely did have some help, but we didn't have that much help. And I think realizing that like feedback is so important and all of that, like as my essays were getting better and better, like you could like physically see the difference. And it was like such a large difference. And it's like feedback is such a big thing. Like knowing what people think of you and knowing how other people are perceiving you is such a big thing. And I think like I wanted to help out in that process too.
Awesome. On behalf of our team, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think a lot of our students are getting, again, for those are for our coaching families. If you ever see now Coach Sarah, Coach Michelle, these are the you will put faces now to the Google Docs edits. And thank you again. We stayed way over. I asked you guys 30 minutes. It's been almost over an hour now. So kind of wrap it up. One final, I always ask a fun question at the very end because it was fun to hear everyone's responses. Now we get two of you, so there'll be like a little 8 nuggets. So I like to end these sessions with like, if you can give a piece of advice, right? You guys have kind of gone through high school, and now thinking back, also working with students in the past as well too. I'm gonna have you guys give nuggets of wisdom, basically like, hey, if you're talking to a ninth grader, what advice would you give them? We'll have one rapid fire, one for each of you. We'll do 10th, 11th, 12th, and also a fun one. I'll have you guys share a piece of feedback to the family's parents as well too, of any grade. Okay, so let's start with first with ninth grade. Let's have Coach Michelle go first this time.
Oh,
Just to
okay.
switch it up a little bit. Coach Michelle, what's a piece of advice you'll give to a ninth grader, kind of starting this whole high school process?
Yeah, I would say don't go into ninth grade expecting anything. You don't know what you want to do with your future. You don't know what you like yet. You're so young and you have so much to learn. And like the biggest thing is like try everything. Just try it. You have the time, I would say, in ninth grade to try it. Like really push yourself and develop like a drive for yourself. I think that's like the most important thing in ninth grade because like the classes that you can take are probably not going to be that academically stressful. At least for me, it wasn't. And so like the biggest thing is like building up this motivation for like wanting to know what to do with your future. And it's not like, oh, I need to figure out what I'm like, what I need to want to be, but just like, oh, I want to like, I have all these interests. Like, what is it that I really want to do? And that's like the biggest thing I think you should focus on in ninth grade.
Yeah, I agree. I think just being as open as possible, like just like I think like yeah, ninth grade was like huge because it's like your first time like in a school that has like a bunch of clubs and you could figure out your interest through that. I think like trying to, you know, get to know the teachers a little bit. It's kind of a different mindset than like middle school, I would say. But I think yeah, just being as open as possible. Like I didn't like join like robotics my sophomore year, so like ninth grade was just like me like literally just trying to get my bearings and be like, what the heck is high school? Um, yeah, so I think just like don't yeah, I think just like keep yourself open. I think yeah, just keep yourself open and I think just try like slowly and surely finding your interest, which could be difficult. But I think like if you it's a trial and error period and you have a lot of time still at that time. So yeah.
Awesome. Let's move on to sophomores. So 10th graders. What's a piece of advice you have for 10th graders?
I would say like kind of similar to ninth grade. I think 10th grade is where things start picking up academically, like taking harder classes and stuff. But again, just like get familiar with your surroundings. I would say by 10th grade, really know kind of what clubs you want to stick with, and what you like want to continue trying or learning or doing. I think 10th grade is where a lot of people start to stress about things that they don't need to be stressing out about. And so I think really focus on again like finding who you are because like and like this is like I guess a more pivotal moment because by junior year you are so stressed academically that you have to kind of just like feel more comfortable in other aspects of your like growth and of who you are as a person. I think like spend that time in 10th grade really thinking about it because that's like the only real breath of air that you have before high school's gonna like fly by.
Yeah, I agree. I think just like trying to get more focused. And I think, yeah, setting yourself in the right path in 10th grade. Cause yeah, 11th grade and 12th grade will go really fast. You're so focused on like classes and going that like I feel like you don't have time to like kind of catch your bearings and be like, oh wait, like am I on the right path? So I think like you don't have to like be on the path, but I think you want to like position yourself to be in the right path. So that's like when I joined robotics and started dipping my toes in robotics and like science olympiad. Cause I like if I joined robotics in my 10th, 11th grade, I like literally like wouldn't have the time to like even like get into the program and understand what's happening. Yeah, and I think 10th grade is when people start like, yeah, at least in our robotics, like start taking you a little more seriously. Like ninth grade, you're like in your training rookie year, and then like 10th grade is where like they like are like you are like slowly gonna contribute and like figure out where you like live in the team. So like just finding out where you want to like position yourself is really, I think, key in 10th grade.
Awesome. Now we're moving on past halfway mark of high school. How about 11th grade?
Yeah, I would say that 11th grade was a pretty defining, like that's when I honestly can't remember who I was in 10th grade, but I think I like have conscious memory of who I was like by 11th grade. And I think this is where I got heavily involved in robotics. And this is actually the year that our team went to the world championship. And so it was just like, I think 11th grade is your really only year to push yourself to like the limits, basically, like push yourself academically, like take yourself as far as you can, dive in as deep into whatever you're doing as much as you can. And I would say like drop things that aren't worth your time, that you don't love doing, that are draining you out, because they're gonna drain you more if you don't like doing it than if you like did enjoy doing it. And like think about it, like by 12th grade, like a thing that I think some people do is they like try and push for like last extracurriculars to like join in by 12th grade. It's really not that worth it, I would say, because you want to spend your time really getting your application polished and nice. And so like whatever you're trying to do in 12th grade, where you're like pushing yourself to do a bunch of random extracurriculars that you think will look good on your application, I would say like try and do that in like 10th or 11th grade, because 11th grade is like when you're pushing yourself and really seeing like how far you can take yourself academically. And it's like probably the most stressful year notoriously in terms of academics. But I think that this is like where you learn the most about yourself. And I think because I went through such a like stressful process, I learned the most about myself. And that's why I like remember it the most distinctly.
Yeah, I also think I agree. I think at 10th grade, 11th grade is like you literally just take things like I feel like you can only look like at what's right in front of you right now. Because if you look at it too far ahead, like I have to do like 20 different things, like you just gotta take it like one step at a time. Like I got this test tomorrow, I'm just gonna focus on that test. Like I have 20 tests like the day after, like I'll worry about that when I get there. So I think like taking things step by step is really important. I think, yeah, and I think you could like because it's such a stressful time, and I feel like you have like less, I think, like energy to like kind of um like I guess like think about things like complexly socially, I would say. I think like you kind of like I think your true character kind of shows like because you're just so stressed, you don't have time to be like, this is the image I want to put on. So I think like it's kind of your time to decide like who do I like kind of want to be? Like, do I want to be the super ultra competitive, like hide everything from everyone, or do I want to be like a collaborator? Like I think that's kind of the time. That's like when I saw characters in people. I think like people became like really competitive, or they became like like I'll sit down and help you. And I think like there's value in trying to sit down and like help others because I think it can manifest itself in different ways later on. But I think yeah, the biggest thing is like yeah, it's I feel like you're just treading in water in 11th grade and you're just trying to like keep your head above water, which is really stressful. I think don't try comparing yourselves too much to other people. Um, I think it's like I think like yeah, I think I found myself like looking at like, oh, I did 10 points better in this quiz, but they did like 11 points better in this quiz. And I was like comparing myself one on one, like every single minute thing. I think being able to like gauge yourself like around your surroundings is important, but I think like comparing yourself for every minute detail can get really stressful. So I think just like it's like almost like you have to like look in and like just take things step by step, but like every once in a while you have to like step back and be like, are we where I want to be right now? So it's a pretty difficult time. I'm not gonna lie. 11th grade, I kind of blacked out, I think. like that entire year.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think that was a big thing, like, the competitive aspect, I think, really comes out, like, claws are out, like, people are mean and aggressive, and I think, like, trying to not be aggressive is, like, one of the most like, the things that, like, keep me sane, and I think because of, like, my friends and I had a really good support system, and good people who, like, I had been studying with for a while, and so it was about, like, all of us trying to do well on this exam together and not, like, "I'm gonna do better than you." But it can get, like, very stressful and very scary, and comparing yourself is never gonna make you feel good, it's never gonna help you do better, and so, like, really focus on who you are as a person, and honestly, like, if you're someone that's, like, happy and helpful for other people, like, whatever happens in 12th grade, like, people are gonna be happy for you and for your success, like, it'll pay off in ways that you can't really imagine that it will. Like, keep yourself grounded and try not to, like, get too caught up in, like, this, like, academic race because it's gonna end and it's gonna not matter in a couple years.
Awesome. And to finish up the grades, 12th grade.
Yeah, I think 12th grade first semester. Oh, sorry, Michelle, do you want to go first?
Oh, you can go first.
Oh, sorry. 12th grade first semester, I think it's just and like summer before 12th grade first semester, it's like you're just trying to grind, I think. Again, like take things in stride one by one, like have a master plan, but like take things like have it as a checklist and like take things one by one. Um, and I think that as soon as you send that last application, like whenever January 15th, I think just like leave it up in the air and just like I think whatever the like I truly believe, yeah, whatever like wherever you're meant to be, like that's where you'll go. I think there's like obviously list of like, you know, best universities, blah, blah, blah. But I think that universities kind of can gauge what fits them well. And I think that um yeah, I think wherever you go, I think you'll find a niche, like even if like maybe like the big school is like maybe not your vibe. I think everywhere has like a little bubble where you can find your people. And I think, yeah, and I think that I think especially your second semester senior year, I think like this is like, you know, for me it was like people I grew up since like elementary school with. So it's like people that like I want to like, you know, hang out with. So I just like spent my senior second semester, like I almost like kind of like semi let go of classes um and just like tried hanging out with them and just being excited. Like the summer before college, I think is like such a great summer to like, you know, be like this is kind of a transitional period and I just want to like spend as much you almost want to pause time and you're just like I'm gonna be like these are the people I grew up with, which is kind of crazy. And I might not talk to half of them like 2 years from now. But yeah, I think just really trying to like absorb it all, I think, senior year, second semester especially is like I think really important.
Yeah. For first semester, I think, and especially over the summer, like getting an organizational system down is probably going to be the best way to manage your time. So I think this is when I was thinking about like what schools I wanted to apply to. I made a list of like the due dates, the all the supplementals and questions that they had. And then I kind of like tried to gauge when I wanted a first draft done or like when I wanted this draft done or like how by like this date, how many people I wanted to have reviewed it or something like that. And I think that organizational system helped me out a lot with the college process. I did have people like pushing me, like my parents and like a coach, like pushing me to like meet these deadlines and make sure I was getting there on time, which was nice, but not like super necessary. Um, but yes, like getting that system down, thinking about where you want to be, what you want to major in, kind of what like ideas of what you think your common app can be about or what your UCPIQs are going to be about. Like really rough, but like that should be like there. And then I would say like try not to like push that deadline. Like really give yourself time to like get a bunch of feedback and be ready to rewrite things over and over. Like be ready. Like sometimes we'll be like reading these essays and a lot of the time sometimes the essay like won't fit well or there's like certain things about the essays that just don't work. And sometimes people will try and like make it work. But I think there are times when it's easier to just start from a blank piece of paper and really just like start fresh. And you can bring the aspects from the other essay, but just like start fresh. Like sometimes it feels so much better and you feel so much less limited. And so like that's something that I did. I like restarted. I did a bunch of drafts. And like you're gonna be grateful for that because you'll read that first draft and then you'll read the draft you turn in and really feel a lot better about it. And that's like something that for first semester. And I would say also like my classes I don't think were that bad. I think I took like 4 APs, but I would say that most of the teachers were semi understanding or just like the classes weren't that bad. especially after like junior year, like things are going to be a lot easier for you, I would say. And then second semester of senior year, like really enjoy it, have fun. I let myself go for sure. There was a bit of time there where I was really scared, but I got my grades back up and it was totally fine. But like let yourself have fun. Like a lot of things don't matter anymore. Like they do, like don't do terrible things, but like let yourself have fun and really connect with people. I think this is when like my like friendships really like bonded and grew, and those are like the people that I knew were good people to surround myself with. And so when I got into college and stuff, these were the people that were so happy for me and were like the saddest to like say goodbye to, and I still meet every summer and still talk to all the time even throughout the semester. And I think that those relationships are so necessary, especially like in your first year of college. Things are going to be kind of lonely. Like it's hard to meet people, it's hard to like find your group. And so having a strong support system coming out of high school, I think really helped me get through that, and also helped me realize like what kind of people I want to surround myself with, because those are people that are reflections of you. And I'm really grateful for the people that I got to meet.
Awesome. And the final group, because I think you guys have worked with our students. You guys have seen parents in the background, probably on some calls as well too. You guys kind of navigating this journey with parents going through the process. What advice would you have just for families? Because a lot of people will be watching this video in the replay in the future. There's a lot of parents who will be watching this and kind of try to find feedback and tips for their own kids. So talking to a parent now, what advice would you tell for them if like they're trying to help their kids get into like school like an MIT or other schools like that? What tip would you give to a parent directly?
I think that the college application writing process is such like a almost like emotionally and spiritually like draining experience because you're like pouring your entire soul out there. So it's very like a vulnerable experience. So um I think like giving your child like I think there's like places where you need to give your child a little bit of room to be able to like share that vulnerable side of themselves. And it's like yeah, it's almost like yeah, it's like there's parts of it where you're like I think it's yeah, it's such a like a soul draining, like soul giving experience. I think to like write these applications and like present yourself like and be vulnerable. Like this is who I am as a person. And it's like, will you accept me? It's like a very like I think difficult time for students. So I think like um being as supportive as possible and understanding of that I think is really really key. I think like hovering I'm yeah, I don't know. I think that like hovering over the students and being like, do you have this done? Do you have this done? Do you have this done? I think stresses them out so much because I think most students know that it's like how important the process is. So having like another thing over their shoulder kind of like you know like pushing them to do something when it's more of like I don't know, like I feel like there were like times where like I felt like I could write like really, really a lot, and there were times where I feel like I was blocked. Right now it's kind of tough because like the deadline's coming up really soon, but I think the process is generally a little bit like there are highs and lows. I think so. I think being very aware of that and very accommodating of that is really important. And I think that there's like no like really like formula like perfect formula to get into like any call. Like I can't like even though like me and Michelle went, like we still don't really know why we got in. We don't really know what aspects of it that they find. So I feel like um again like maybe take this as like maybe inspiration, but like don't like copy the story because like we don't know what aspect, like maybe they like this or that. And it's like maybe it was like something that weren't even aware of that we should told them. Um but yeah, I think that just being very like accommodating and considerate of like this process, I think is really key. And I think sometimes like it's almost more helpful to step back. And I think it's like you kind of want because it's like I guess like it feels like you're letting go your like child or something, but like it's very like I don't know, it's like very like I think yeah, I think it's just very just be like more just be try to be considerate of that because it's just it's a lot. It's a lot. And it could be really difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Like writing a college app, especially if you're like really, really doing it well, it's a process where you break yourself down and try and realize who you are outside of your achievements and awards and your stats. Like, who are you as a person and why are you the way that you are? What sort of like aspects of your background made you that way or made you think these things about yourself? And that is a very scary and vulnerable process. And I think it depends on your relationship with your parents. but oftentimes it's like a very personal thing and you want to keep it to yourself. And so that's why like when I had people reading my essays, I was also like very nervous about it because they are so personal and they are so like deep and they're like about me and I hate talking about me. Like that's something that like a lot of people like to do. And so it can be uncomfortable at first to like write it out and to just like let it out. And I think like Coach Tony will talk about this, but like evaluating who you are, it's like literally like breaking you down psychologically almost. And it's a scary process and it's hard and it's meant to be hard. And so like as a parent, I think letting your kid have that time to do that, to do it on its own and maybe um also recognizing that like most parents at least like the college application process is different than it was maybe when you were applying or like 10 years ago and things like that. So, like you have advice and that can be helpful, but it's different now. And like recognizing that your kid might want to do something in a certain way and letting them do that. Another thing is like, I think, especially for me, when I was writing it, I became a very like spiteful and negative person where I would like push my parents away and be very like annoyed and really angry whenever I felt like they were kind of on my back. And I would say like trying to take that too personally as a parent, I think it is a really stressful time for your kid and they are gonna like lash out a little. And that's something that definitely like I did and I regret. I think that was like really mean. But it's like just something that you like have to be understanding of. And I think that I'm really grateful that my parents were understanding of that. And um yeah, and at the end of the day, like being very supportive of your kid, knowing that they put in a lot of work and effort and time, no matter where they end up. And even if like you don't like your child doesn't have like is matching like your vision of whatever you expected, that they're going to do great things with whatever they did. And you raised them well and you did whatever you could to like instill these values in them that will make them a good person and a successful person. And like be proud of that. Know that you did that. And whatever happens, just like support them and let them know that you are so proud of how much work and effort that they put in. I think that's like one of the biggest things a parent can do. Like that is the encouragement that will push me to do better. Not like, did you finish this? Can you do this? Like, has someone read over this? Like, that's really not what you want to be. You want to be someone that's like, I can't believe you wrote this. Like, this is a beautiful thing. You wrote about it like very deeply, very personally, and I can't wait to see like what happens with it. And that's like the role I think a parent should play, but it's understandable to like want to hover. Like that's a normal thing, but just know that it's not very helpful and there are other ways that you can help and support your kid.
Awesome. First off, thank you both. Also, we literally talked for like 90 minutes. So kudos to you both. Super awesome call. And on a really cool segue, I think that the big thing about how parents can help as well too. It's something I've seen, right? I've seen like happen to me as well too. The reason why I left home to go to Berkeley was my parents were on me the entire time, but listening to someone else like a Coach Michelle, Coach Sarah, Coach Tony, or other coaches might be something you guys want to consider as well. So one thing we're doing, if anyone is curious about our coaching program, perhaps get to work with Coach Sarah, Coach Michelle, and the rest of our amazing coaches. You can't see this is the caliber of our team as well. I in the chat, or if you're watching the replay somewhere on this page, you'll see that we dropped a link to book a 15-minute chat with our team. Quick initial call, not a sales call. You actually cannot buy anything on this call. Our team's going to just ask a few questions, learn about you guys, and then give you some quick recommendations first. And if you guys are interested in working together, you can schedule a second call after. But first, this is a quick little assessment. See where you guys are at. See if we can give you some free nuggets as well to on that first session, because a big thing you kind of see from our team and from meeting our team, right? This is who we are. We're big givers. We want to help as many students achieve success, and however students define success the best they can. Okay. With that being said, thank you, Coach Sarah. Thank you, Coach Michelle. It's been an epic call. I think it's one of our top calls that definitely knows to be really impactful for a lot of families. So thank you both. Thank you, everyone, for joining us live and in the future. And I'll see you guys in the next call.